Labour's proposed changes to the first home buyer scheme will lift caps, remove thresholds and flood certain price brackets with new buyers. But just like every demand-side policy in the past, it creates winners and losers. I'm Stephen Glynn, a multi-millionaire investor and owner of the Edge Property Buyers, and I want to show you who potentially stands to gain and who might get priced out. The Labour government's proposed changes to the first home buyer scheme essentially alters who can enter the market, how much you can borrow, and where they can afford to buy. And when you adjust any of these factors like deposit size, price caps, income eligibility, it changes the buying power of tens of thousands of Australians. But when you adjust all three at once, you create a wave of demand that is targeted into very specific price brackets. And if you understand how demand-side policy works, you know it doesn't just help buyers. In fact, the most predictable outcome is price acceleration, especially in markets that are already undersupplied, like Brisbane and many areas in Melbourne. This is a classic case of demand stimulus. The government is making it easier to buy, but it's not making it easier to build, and some of the new housing supply policies announced won't be ready for years after the major expansion of the 5% deposit scheme will be implemented. And that disconnect has long-term consequences. So let's step back and look at what the scheme is, how it works today, and what changes Labour is promising. Under the First Home Guarantee Scheme, eligible first home buyers can purchase a property with as little as a 5% deposit without needing lender's mortgage insurance. That's a saving of tens of thousands of dollars for many buyers, and it allows them to get into the market much faster and with less capital up front. But this isn't open to everyone. As it stands today, there are income thresholds that apply. For single applicants, you'll need to be earning under $125,000 per year. For couples, the threshold considers your combined income, which can't be more than $200,000 per year. There are also property price caps set by city and region. In Brisbane, as an example, the cap is $700,000, and in Melbourne, it's $800,000. And besides the eligibility criteria, there are only 35,000 guarantees available annually across metro areas and 10,000 set aside for regional buyers. So this is a capped, means-tested scheme with guardrails in place. And while it's helped a lot of people, it also creates bottlenecks. Buyers hit income limits or find price caps don't match real-world property prices in their areas. So that's exactly what Labour's proposed changes are set to remove. Labour is proposing three major changes, each of which expand buyer access and purchasing power, particularly in markets like Brisbane and Melbourne that sit just below the $1 million mark. Let's look at them and what they actually mean on the ground. So change one. Removal of the income caps. Labour's proposal is to remove the income cap thresholds altogether. That means any first home buyer, regardless of income, can access the 5% deposit scheme without paying LMI. This has two major effects. The first one, it expands the pool of eligible buyers dramatically, especially in dual income households and professional sectors that previously earned too much to qualify. Secondly, it lifts the borrowing ceiling for those buyers because removing the income caps gives them access to low deposit, high leverage purchases that couldn't previously be made under the scheme. So basically, you've now got higher income buyers with larger budgets competing for entry-level stock. And now on to the second big change. Labour wants to remove the cap on the number of places available in the scheme. Right now, there's a hard ceiling on available spots, and once those are filled, buyers have to wait until the next round. That scarcity creates a natural limit on the amount of demand the scheme can inject into the market at any one time. By removing the cap, Labour effectively turns this into an open tap. Any eligible first home buyer at any time can access the guarantee. And that creates two realities: more buyers entering faster, often with a sense of now or never timing, and more consistent demand pressure applied across the year. And finally, the third change, and probably the most important one, raising the property price caps. Labour is proposing to increase the eligible price ceiling from $700,000 in Brisbane to $1 million, and in Melbourne it is going from $800,000 to $950,000. This unlocks entirely new suburbs and new property types for buyers who previously had to look in the $600,000 to $700,000 range in Brisbane as an example. It also shifts the entire centre of gravity of first home buyer competition upward, putting pressure on the $700,000 to $1 million stock. This is critical. Labour scheme doesn't just help first home buyers buy anything, it helps them buy more and in areas they've previously been priced out of. And in a supply constrained market like Brisbane and parts of Melbourne, that creates a ripple effect as first home buyers start competing in the $700K to $1 million space. I mentioned at the start of the video that these changes are going to put upward pressure on property prices. So let me explain why. When a government removes income thresholds, lifts price caps, and opens the gate to unlimited participants, they're not just helping people into homes. They're stimulating demand in a very specific segment of the market. And in housing, demand stimulus without matching it with increased supply creates only one outcome: upward price pressure. Let's break that down. Policies like the first home guarantee are what economists call demand-side stimulus. This makes it easier, faster, and more financially attractive for buyers to enter the property market. But they don't change how many properties exist or how fast new ones are built. In fact, housing supply is notoriously inelastic. It has long lead times, land release bottlenecks, planning delays, NIMBYism, construction worker shortages, and material constraints. So when you pour thousands of new cashed-up buyers into an undersupplied market, all competing for the same pool of homes, the only thing that can adjust quickly is price. And that's exactly what we can expect to see happen in both Brisbane and Melbourne, especially in that sub $1 million bracket. And we've seen this before. Take Brisbane in 2024 as an example. When the state government increased the stamp duty concession threshold to $700,000, almost overnight, suburbs that were priced in around that $650K range jumped up to $700,000. Because buyers had more budget and sellers adjusted their price expectations. Within 2 months, the markets we were buying in at $650,000 had effectively become $700K markets. This is why these seemingly supportive policies can often hurt the very first home buyers they intend to help. And it's worth mentioning this too. Australia is projected to welcome 1.8 million new migrants by 2030. We know from decades of demographic data that the majority of new arrivals settle in Sydney, Melbourne, and Brisbane. That means that the demand pool isn't just expanding because of government incentives, it's growing naturally through population increases. And if we can't build enough housing quickly, which, let's be honest, we haven't been able to, then every new layer of demand puts pressure on the same limited stock relative to the demand. This is why we're calling it early. This policy, if implemented, will be a sugar hit to the sub $1 million market in both Melbourne and Brisbane. And unless supply surprises everyone, prices will respond accordingly. Who actually wins and who loses from this policy? Let's look at the winners first. So I think the first winner, as with most of these demand-side stimulus policies, is existing property owners, especially those that are going to be under the new price caps. If you already own property in Brisbane and Melbourne below the new price cap thresholds, say $800K to $950K in Melbourne or $700K to $1 million in Brisbane, you're in a strong position. Because the moment these policies come into effect, you'll likely see an increase in buyer competition for the stock in this price bracket. So even without listing your property, you may find that your equity position improves, especially if comparable sales begin adjusting upward to meet the new budgets. The next biggest winners are buyers who move before the scheme comes into effect. If you secure a property under the current cap, say a $700K house in Melbourne or an $850K family home in Brisbane, you're buying before the competition gets there. The third winner of the new scheme will be the first wave of new scheme participants. This is the same with any new scheme that is implemented. Of course, early adopters of the new scheme will benefit, particularly those who were previously locked out by income or cap constraints. And many will do well provided they're quick, strategic, and work with the right advice. Now let's look at who loses out the most. And that will be future first home buyers who missed the early window of this scheme. Over time, and we've seen this after nearly every major demand-side stimulus, the policy's benefits get priced in and all you're left with is higher prices, higher debt, more competition, and no real advantage to first home buyers. That means future buyers end up paying more for the same houses in the areas they wanted to live without any material increase in value, just because they came after the first wave of participants. It's like a game of musical chairs. If you don't act early, you'll still pay, but with less room to move. Just like when the stamp duty concession came in Brisbane, The first wave of buyers got the benefit, and now everyone that wants to buy in those formerly 650k suburbs now have to pay well over 700,000 and obviously don't get access to the concession that is capped at 700k. So they are the biggest losers, and the 5% deposit scheme will likely have a similar outcome for the unfortunate latecomers. So here's what I'd recommend. If you already own a property, now is the time to reassess your equity position. You may be sitting on more leverage than you realize. If you're looking to buy, especially as an investor, you want to move before the policy is fully priced in. And if you're unsure of where to start or whether your next move stacks up financially, that's exactly where we can help at The Edge Property Buyers. I have left a link in the description box to book a free discovery call where we'll walk you through what's possible based on your goals. Otherwise, we'll see you on the next one.